Understanding sensory-seeking behavior in autism and ADHD. Sensory-seeking behavior is an intriguing and vital topic when it comes to understanding individuals with autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. These behaviors, though often misunderstood, are a natural part of how neurodiverse individuals interact with the world around them. In this video, we will break down what sensory-seeking behavior is, why it happens, and most importantly, how caregivers, educators, and professionals can support these behaviors through empathy and practical strategies. By the end of this discussion, you'll not only have a deeper appreciation for sensory-seeking tendencies, but also actionable insights on fostering a more inclusive and understanding environment for everyone. Let's start with defining sensory-seeking behavior. Simply put, sensory-seeking refers to actions performed to gain specific sensory input that helps an individual feel regulated or engaged. These behaviors vary widely and may include spinning, jumping, touching certain textures, watching repetitive movements, or even seeking intense smells or tastes. For a child or adult with ASD or ADHD, these actions are not just random. They are deeply tied to how their brain processes sensory information. While many people process sensory input in a way that keeps them balanced, individuals who are sensory seekers often have a different threshold for stimulation. Understanding this need is fundamental. It's important to remember, sensory-seeking behaviors are cognitive or physiological needs. They aren't designed to annoy others or act out. By redefining these actions as legitimate, we can shift our perspective from frustration to compassion. Have you ever stopped to consider how the world feels, both physically and emotionally? For individuals with ASD or ADHD, their nervous system interprets sensory input differently. Sensory seeking happens because their brain craves additional stimulation to process and regulate the environment around them. For example, spinning around repeatedly might bring physical relief or mental clarity. Touching soft, rough, or sticky objects could provide a calming sensation that keeps them grounded when their emotions feel scattered. These behaviors are often rooted in self-regulation. When someone is overwhelmed by the external world or their own thoughts, sensory seeking becomes a tool to regain balance. It's also worth noting that sensory thresholds play a major role here. A sensory threshold refers to the amount of sensory input someone needs to feel a sense of equilibrium. People with lower thresholds may avoid sensory input, while those with higher thresholds, like sensory seekers, actively pursue it. Sensory-seeking behavior can present itself in countless ways and is often influenced by the sensory modality involved. Here are a few examples. Tactile sensations, repeatedly touching objects, running fingertips through textures like fabric or sand, or even chewing on items like pencils or jewelry. Movement, spinning in circles, jumping on surfaces, rocking back and forth, or an overall need to constantly be in motion. Auditory input, frequently making loud noises, humming, clapping, or gravitating toward environments with high-volume stimuli such as concerts. Visual stimuli, fixating on moving objects like fans or watching repetitive shapes, patterns, and lights. Proprioceptive needs, engaging with deep pressure sensations through activities like bear hugs, using weighted blankets, or pushing against walls. Taste and smell, craving strong-smelling foods, eating non-edible items, pica behavior, or sniffing objects for comfort. It's important to recognize that every individual has a unique sensory profile. No two people with ASD or ADHD will seek or react to stimuli in the exact same way. Despite its importance, sensory-seeking behavior is often misunderstood, leading to negative assumptions. Many people might see these actions as disruptive, attention-seeking, or even defiant behaviors, especially in structured environments like schools. The reality couldn't be further from these misconceptions. Sensory seeking is often subconscious, automatic responses to meet a person's sensory needs. These actions are not performed with the intention of causing disruptions or drawing attention. By reframing these behaviors as valid communication of a need, we can replace judgment with empathy. Imagine how frustrating it must be for someone to face reprimands for fulfilling a sensory requirement essential to their focus or emotional regulation. Sensory seeking isn't just a physical need, it's also closely tied to emotional regulation. Many individuals use sensory-rich activities to self-soothe during times of stress, anxiety, or overstimulation. For instance, a teenager with ADHD might tap their foot incessantly during an exam, helping them focus on the questions instead of their racing thoughts. Meanwhile, a child with autism might rock or hum to calm themselves in a loud, bustling environment. Acknowledging the emotional link allows us to approach sensory-seeking behavior with more patience. These actions aren't erratic. They are coping strategies that bring peace to someone navigating a world that can often feel overwhelming. So how do we, as caregivers, educators, or professionals, support those who engage in sensory-seeking behavior? The first step is understanding their unique needs. You can achieve this by observing patterns in their actions to identify what kind of sensory input they're seeking and in which context. Design spaces where individuals can safely explore their sensory needs. These might include sensory rooms equipped with tools like fidget toys, chewy jewelry, soft cushions, or tactile boards. For children with autism or ADHD, structured routines that allow occasional sensory input breaks can significantly improve focus and mood. For example, schedule breaks to jump on a trampoline, use a weighted blanket, or engage in a preferred sensory activity. When a specific behavior becomes impractical or unsafe, for instance, jumping on furniture in class, offer substitutions. For example, suggest exercise bands under a chair for foot tapping or inflatable cushions for seated bouncing. Some behaviors might seem unusual or excessive from the outside, but they're perfectly healthy and meaningful to the individual. Respecting these preferences is key to creating an inclusive environment. Using the right tools can make a world of difference in supporting sensory seekers. Here are some examples. Weighted items. Weighted blankets or vests provide deep pressure stimulation, which is incredibly calming for some individuals. Movement tools. Sensory swings, indoor trampolines, or yoga balls allow for safe and controlled movement activities. Chewable items. Non-toxic chewable jewelry or toys meet oral sensory needs in an appropriate way. Fidget items. Spinners, squishy toys, or stress balls cater to tactile and proprioceptive needs while also supporting focus. Every person benefits from different combinations of these tools, which is why personalization is critical. When addressing sensory needs for individuals with ASD or ADHD, working closely with professionals like occupational therapists can be invaluable. They'll help create sensory profiles for individuals, offer tailored strategies, and train caregivers and teachers in sensory integration techniques. Additionally, collaboration between parents, educators, therapists, and even peers fosters consistency across environments. This ensures that sensory-seeking behaviors are met with unified and compassionate support instead of resistance or reprimand. One of the best ways to help individuals with sensory-seeking behaviors thrive is by advocating for inclusivity. From classrooms to workplaces, creating sensory-friendly environments involves small changes with big impacts. Offering sensory zones, providing noise-canceling headphones, or simply allowing breaks for movement normalizes these behaviors and reduces stigma. Advocacy is also about education. Teaching others to appreciate sensory needs, not as inconveniences, but as unique expressions of individuality, helps create an embracing and accepting society. Sensory-seeking behavior in autism and ADHD is a beautiful, natural reflection of the human brain's diversity. Far from being a flaw, these behaviors are tools for self-regulation, comfort, and focus in an often overwhelming world. By understanding their causes, manifestations, and emotional significance, we can approach sensory seeking with true empathy. Practical strategies like creating sensory outlets, providing breaks, and using supportive tools empower individuals to meet their sensory needs in safe, constructive ways. Meanwhile, collaboration with professionals and sustained advocacy lay the foundation for a more inclusive environment that embraces neurodiversity. Ultimately, when we show patience and celebrate sensory seeking rather than judging it, we enable individuals with ASD and ADHD to thrive on their terms. And that, perhaps, is the greatest gift we can give, helping them shine in a world that truly sees and supports them for who they are.